we're trying to do a little bit more remotely now, current climate and all that. So Talking Reds right up to Christmas will be streamed, but no less fun. And today it is John Gibbons, and I'm joined by Rob Gutmann. And Rob, first of all, we'll talk about the draw. It was a bit of a farce yesterday, but we ended up with Italian champions Inter Milan.
Yeah, I'm still not over that, yesterday.
It went off. Is this too soon?
Yeah, it probably went off when Salzburg were drawn in my immediate environment. I was delighted with that draw. That was like we could put our feet up, put the League Cup team out, I know, not quite that easy, but that felt like a very, very solid draw, that Salzburg one. Can we just talk about that, actually?
What could have been?
Yeah. Inter Milan... I mean, I could live to regret that, I did the post-match with Neil and Steve Graves after AC Milan. And my first comment was, what an indictment of Italian football AC Milan are. And they were top at that point. Now, I know Inter have edged ahead, and I'm hoping Italian football can stay in the same dire state till next February. That's the weird thing that people never really overly talk about with these draws, actually, is it's a big gap, really. It's 8-10 weeks from the draw to the actual game. I remember the year, I think it was the year we played Bayern, and I know we did them in the end, but the team we came up against was a vastly different proposition to the one we've been drawn against, because I think they'd been like off the pace in third that year or something like that in the Bundesliga, and then they were a whole different ball game by the time the knockout phase actually came into being. And so my point is I don't even think we know what Inter Milan we're getting. Yes, they're not going to be European giants. Obviously, they're not potential winners of this competition. I think it's fair to say. We don't really know what level of side they are.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of fair points there, Rob. In terms of the gap, a lot's going to happen between that and now and then. There's a January transfer window, which we're going to go to talk about. There's obviously, AFCON, and then there's a lot of league games, and Inter Milan have gone to the top of the league over AC. It was funny when it feels like when we played AC Milan, they were top, and now we're drawn against Inter in theirs, which feels like, I don't know, a bit of a Swiss somewhere, but never mind. But yeah, I think there is sort of a long way between now and then. But we know who we've got. You just sort of fancy Liverpool, whatever, I think, Rob, and that's why I'm sort of, I'm not as annoyed by the messing around as it could have been, really. I mean, Salzburg would have been a nicer draw. You talking about, preparing for that. I was already talking about resting lads for the second leg.
Yeah, exactly.
You play that one. Yeah,
exactly.
And so we're sort of away from there. But, PSG was the one where I didn't want, because although I don't really feel like they're quite a proper football team, still with the firepower they've got, they could have done something mad at home to make something, very, very tricky at Anfield. But apart from that, I just feel like this Liverpool team currently is just sort of too strong, and I don't expect that to change too much in a couple of months.
No, absolutely. I think we're a much better team. I think it's a bad draw for them. I do agree with you. When that second draw was being made, it was coming down to a pretty binary PSG or Inter situation, wasn't it? The tension was really ratcheted up, and I was relieved to get Inter ahead of PSG. I mean, you know what? You talk about boxing things off in first legs. It made me think there's no away goals. So this is our first experience of no away goals in this tie. So I feel in a certain sense there's a bigger pressure to go out there and just win. Normally you go out there and just score, get a cheeky little 1-1, get a 2-2. And you're under no pressure to win at home then. But I don't want to go back to Anfield having to beat an Italian team that could part the bus. So you feel there's a sense of pressure. I mean, I know we're previewing this in forensically a bit early here, but I feel like you want to go there and try and win in Italy.
Yeah, no, I think that's completely fair, and I think that is what we'll try and do. But as you say, trying to preview a game sort of 8 weeks away, does sort of feel a little bit mad. A couple of comments coming in. One from Megan. He said, "My initial analysis of the draw is that any side who were behind Milan in their league when we played them can't be that hot." And I think that back to the Gutmann theory of a sad indictment of Syria and all this, and I feel like that's something that we can sort of all get on board with at this stage to sort of feel confident. But it is a little way away. But at least sort of Liverpool, we're in there. That is the most important thing in the last 16. But quite a few things to happen between now and then, including, Rob, a January transfer window, and you are our transfer expert. We are recording an award-winning gutter at 11 o'clock this morning. It is out later today for everyone to look forward to, all our audio subscribers to look forward to. in this award-winning gutter, are you going to be expecting much to happen in January, or is it going to be a wider view of Liverpool's sort of transfer, a kind of strategy, if you like, and who's likely to come, as much in the summer as it is in Jan?
Well, we're not all about the awards, John. I mean, it's mainly bringing truth to the people here. So let's not over focus on the awards. We're a modest show. But if people want to praise us, then let them praise us. No, I think it's a difficult January transfer window. I think we've been hurt and burned by Liverpool in January transfer windows just far too often. It feels a long time ago since Virgil rocked up and the window got off to a flyer, or even the one under Brendan where we had Daniel Sturridge and Phil Coutinho coming in one fell swoop, more or less. So we've got to be realistic and say we don't expect a lot to happen. We don't think Klopp's going to bring in strikers just to compensate Liverpool for 2 or 3 games worth of losing Mane and Salah in the AFCON. But we are going to look at there have been some links to forwards for January, and it's worth us looking at them and seeing what the possibilities are. We're going to be talking about Luis Diaz, is a Colombian winger who plays for Porto. He's very, very highly rated. But as you say, we are also going to look ahead to the summer, and there are quite a raft of very credible links for the summer, and I think those are interesting ones, not least the Jude Bellingham one.
Yeah, just on Luis Diaz, I really liked him when he played against Liverpool, Rob, and I thought he reminded me a little bit of Bruno Fernandes in that when you watched Fernandes in Portugal, he was just that team's best player, and not just best player, but also leader, and there was a lot on his shoulders, and he didn't mind it. In fact, he relished it, really. And I wonder whether Fernandes was an interesting one because everyone was linked with him, including Liverpool. Everyone had a look, and no one was quite sure, and you suspected one of the things was, well, it's the Portuguese league, but Fernandes has obviously come and, posted incredible numbers ever since he's at Man United. And I wonder whether that would make clubs like Liverpool a bit more tempted on the Diaz thing, really. What do you think?
I'm Fernandes skeptic. Well, I tell you why. If you dive deep into his numbers, and there is the ratio of goals for an all-out attacking midfielder, for a number 10, his ratio of goals in non-set piece or penalty situations, they're not remarkable. And there are big question marks on his work off the ball. And, I think he's not looked the player this season. I think he's been found out a little bit. Let's put it this way. I think there's no doubt he's a decent footballer, right? But I'm not sure, and I think Liverpool were heavily linked to him. We talked about him on a number of the gutter transfer shows back in the day before he signed for Man U. I don't think it's that hard to see why Liverpool swerved him. But having said that, I take your general point about the quality in Portugal. I think the top quality is good enough for our league. Luis Diaz has been posting pretty solid numbers. I think we're looking at 37 goals in 114 games for Porto. Yeah. And those numbers are getting better. He's actually he's actual top scorer in their league this season. He was joint top scorer in the Copa America in the summer with Messi. So he's 25, and the signs are he's getting better. He's quick. I mean, you look at his YouTubes, he's a bit Salah-like, We could do with another one of them. Then you can never have too many Salah-like players, in my opinion. So let's see. He's the most credible of the links to January, but the price would be big.
Yeah, absolutely. Another one of the price would be big for is obviously Jude Bellingham, and I know you're a huge fan of him, Rob. Unlikely to happen in January, but it might not even happen it might not even move next summer, really. I know Dortmund are keen to keep him for as long as possible. Quite understandably, he's a brilliant player. How sort of close to the driving seat do you sort of sense Liverpool are for Bellingham, really?
I think there's enough background noise on this, and we're going to go into the detail on the show, so I won't spoil it here, but there's enough background noise on this to believe that he's a really, really serious Liverpool target. Having said that, Naby Keita was a serious Liverpool target back in the summer of, 2018, I think it was. But we came up against another resolute German institution there, Leipzig. And I think Dortmund, who Leipzig were keen that Naby Keita would leave when they were good and ready for him to leave. And you sense that the Dortmund are like that too. They've already shown that with Jadon Sancho. Yes, they sold him eventually, but they didn't sell him when United were absolutely desperate first time round. And they made sure they got their fee for him. So unless the player is really going to go to war with Dortmund and push and make life uncomfortable for them, I think he's going to be difficult to dislodge. Also, the fact is he's still very, very young. He's still a teenager. So it's not that hard for Dortmund to say to him, come on, you owe us another year. And for him and his people to think, is it really worth becoming a sort of a an enfant terrible, a brat, getting that kind of reputation for being disruptive so young, you know? So I've gone from getting excited about him, believing he's a real Liverpool target, to being still not sure which way this one will play out.
Yeah, it is an interesting one, and it's good to run. But as we say, more of this on the gutter coming out later on. In terms of existing players that Prancho's come on here. He says, "Hi, what do you think about Salah, Mane, Firmino contracts ended in 2023?" And it's funny because there's been lots of talk of Salah's contract. Salah being part of those conversations, it has to be said, talking to favoured media. But the other two, it has been a little bit quiet on, but they're both on next summer. It's a funny situation, isn't it, to have your front three, especially a famed front three like Liverpool, sort of all up at the same time, and none of them seemingly any closer to being resolved.
Yeah, they're all distinct cases, aren't they? I think if you in reverse order, the Roberto Firmino one, I think we'd all like him to stay, and we'd all celebrate the day we heard he'd signed a new contract. But on the other hand, I think he's slightly the elder of the three. He's also the one, although he's had a good start to the season pre-injury, has not posted the same numbers as them over the last couple of years. His is a contract it wouldn't be beyond the bounds of possibility that it got run down, or Liverpool looked at it right in the last 6 months and said, "Come on, do you want to stay? Do you want to do a James Milner type top up with us?" I don't think Bobby's calling the shots quite the way the other two are. And when I say the other two, Salah is very much calling the shots at the moment. He's taken himself up another level this season. He holds all the cards there. I think, in my opinion, Liverpool are being a touch foolish because Salah's the only one who can influence his value. They can't. And Salah is influencing his value like a motherfucker, as we're seeing, by becoming the world's best player. I bet they didn't quite see that coming. Sadio Mane is the interesting middle case here because he didn't have a good season last season. He's had a decent season this season. He's definitely more recognisable as the player we came to know and love. But he's not Mohamed Salah, really. I don't think in the perception of world football. I think we put Sadio on the market. I don't think we'd get... Maybe you're talking about half, 2/3 of the money we'd get for Salah. So he's a very hard one to call what his agent, his expectations are. What's most interesting about that one is we're hearing zero noise about it. No one's putting a microphone under Sadio's nose when he's away on international duty or wherever and going, "Sadio, you're going to sign for Liverpool? How committed to Liverpool are you?" The silence around Sadio is really surprising.
Yeah, you wonder whether they're waiting to see what Salah gets, so then they're going to sort of negotiate from there. I don't know, but it is an interesting one. You're quite right, Rob. That he's not done the standard when I'm away on international duty, talk to the sort of local press and things like that. There's very little of that, indeed. Just a couple of comments I want to bring in. Richard Foy says he thinks we'll do a Bellingham deal in January and get him in the summer. That'd be good. Very Naby Keita-esque, but that'd be decent. Scott Willick says, I could see a Tushimeni, as a more interesting option. Very young and very good and much cheaper. I know Neil really likes him and has done some work on StatsBomb, with StatsBomb, showing his numbers and showing, the kind of combative midfielder that he is and how he'd fit in well with what we do. So I know, Neil Atkinson, a big fan, and there has sort of been links on there. In terms of, moving forward then, Rob, in terms of our season, for Liverpool, another big week, a couple of big games, Newcastle and Spurs. The COVID situation, though, continues to play a little bit of havoc. What have you sort of made of the things coming around, the games being pulled, and do you think there's a worry for the Premier League that quite a few fixtures won't get fulfilled over Christmas?
Yeah, it must be a real worry. I mean, we lost Spurs, Brighton, and we're losing Man U, Brentford now, aren't we? So it seems inevitable we're going to lose more and at an increasing rate. So games are going to go. For a manager, it's a tricky one. I mean, I think last season, Pep Guardiola's City game, I think with Everton, got postponed at a key moment over Christmas when their games are coming too close together. And I think Guardiola was delighted with that. And it almost re-energized City. And their great run starts sort of from that moment. They really kick on from there. They got a bit of breathing space and a bit of time to regroup. And I do think there's one or two managers who might be thinking, well, you know what, if we've got 5 out, we're going to push for a cancellation. I think the danger really is to be in that twilight zone where you can't get a cancellation. You lose 3 boys, 3 key men, but you can't get a cancellation. That would worry me from a Liverpool point of view.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Okay. Much more to come on the Anfield Wrap on everything we've just discussed. If you want some transfer stuff, I say coming from Rob today, he's covering it all in the gutter, which is for subscribers out today. So we recorded at 11 o'clock, and so make sure you're subscribing to the Anfield Wrap for loads more on what the stuff that me and Rob have discussed and much more. A few other names that he's talking about, a few more latest on outs and things like that. Some links with the Origi, some links with Nat Phillips. So see what the latest is there. Will all be available on the Gutter Show. Also, across our video content, of course, there's still plenty of analysis going on of the weekend's fantastic win against Aston Villa. Then, of course, we'll all be looking forward to the game against Newcastle, looking at what's happened there. So loads of reasons to subscribe to the Anfield Wrap as the games hopefully become thick and fast there, COVID permitting. But yeah, fantastic time to subscribe. So make sure you go to theanfieldwrap.com/subscribe. But in the meantime, thanks a lot to Rob, to you guys for your comments and getting stuck in, and to Jordan and Harriet for joint production efforts. Up the Reds. Have a lovely Tuesday.